Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We will get started in just a moment. While you're waiting, feel free to share your name and where you're joining from in the chat box.
Hi, I'm very happy to join Common Cause Rhode Island for your 51st annual meeting. I've been working with you for a long time, and you have a lot to celebrate. I'm particularly glad to see the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee and its co-chairs, Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott and James Diossa, be recognized for their remarkable work. We still have 2 congressmen and will for another decade, thanks to what they accomplished. Many years ago, I received this award for our work together on separation of powers, keeping our commissions independent. So I have known for a very long time of Common Cause's wonderful work. Thank you all, and keep it up.
Congratulations, Common Cause Rhode Island, on celebrating 51 years of success. I just want to thank you also and the Complete Count Committee for everything that you did to ensure that Rhode Island was counted and that we were able to preserve our 2 seats in the U.S. Congress. So I want to say thank you for your hard work. Congratulations again on celebrating 51 years of success.
Congratulations to Common Cause Rhode Island on yet another amazing milestone. As a proud supporter of Common Cause, it's an honor to congratulate you at your 51st annual meeting. Thank you to John Marion, the staff, board, and volunteers of Common Cause Rhode Island for your continued dedication and all your vitally important work protecting our democracy. You set the standard for excellence in civic engagement. As we come together to celebrate Common Cause Rhode Island's many achievements, I would like to congratulate this year's honorees: Alan Flink, Phil West, Ellen O'Hara, Ford Sayer, and of course, the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee. Through the hard work of the Complete Count Committee, we were able to ensure an accurate and thorough census count here in Rhode Island. It was a difficult year, and we faced many challenges, but the community came together towards the collective goal of getting a complete count in the census. The efforts of the Complete Count Committee helped protect critical federal funding for our state, over $3.8 billion annually to support our schools, nutrition programs, Medicaid, roads and bridges, and so much more. So again, thank you to Common Cause Rhode Island and the great work of this year's honorees in strengthening our democracy. I'm proud to have the opportunity to partner with this tremendous organization, and I look forward to joining everyone again in person very soon. Thank you.
Happy 51st birthday, Common Cause family. I can't believe that it's been 25 years since we first met. I learned so much from you as a young community activist, trying to figure out the ways of the State House. And we've done so much work together. Voting rights, making sure our state got counted in the census most recently. And by the way, congratulations, Complete Count Committee, because we saved that 2nd congressional seat and all of the money that comes with it. I hope that the next 25, 50 years, you're there, active and strong, and I thank all of you who are supporting you today so that we can have a more accountable and transparent government that truly represents the people.
Hi, this is Senator Jack Reed. I would like to add my voice in congratulating Common Cause Rhode Island on its 51st annual meeting. Particularly, I would also like to acknowledge the work of the Complete Count Committee and its co-chairs, Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott and James Diossa, who will be this year's recipients of the Excellence in Public Service Award for the dedication to ensuring an accurate and thorough count of our state for the census. Thank you, Dr. Scott and Jim, and thank you, Common Cause, for your 51 years of dedication to the people of Rhode Island.
Hola, I'm Sandra Cano, a State Senator, District A, Pawtucket. As a proud supporter of Common Cause Rhode Island, it is an honor for me to congratulate you on hosting your 51st annual meeting. And particularly today, I want to say gracias and highlight the great work of the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee. Because of your efforts, many underserved communities in our state secure federal funding. This funding will provide essential resources all communities need to function and thrive. And because of your dedication, Rhode Island will retain its 2 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Si se pudo, si contamos. It has been a wonderful journey altogether, and I look forward to continuing the fight to protect our democracy with common cause. Let's hope for the best in the coming years. Felicidades!
Congratulations, Common Cause of Rhode Island, on 50 years of strengthening our democracy. And of course, thank you to the Complete Count Committee for all of your efforts as part of the 2020 census. You fought hard for a thorough and accurate count of all Rhode Islanders across the state. And because of that work, we'll keep 2 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives for another decade and continue seeing billions of dollars in federal funding coming back to the Ocean State. Congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations, Common Cause Rhode Island, on your 51st annual dinner. Thank you for your work on making sure Rhode Islanders were counted during the census, and thank you also for making it easier for people to vote, for risk-limiting audits of elections, for fair redistricting, and transparency in government. We're a better state because of you.
Congratulations, Common Cause community, on this milestone meeting, the 51st annual. And thank you so much for your latest achievement, your work on the 2020 census. It is hard to overstate the impact of retaining 2 seats in the U.S. House. Thank you for your work. You are the little engine that can and that does again and again and again. And I am pleased that I can call so many of you my friends and acquaintances. Cheers.
Congratulations to Common Cause of Rhode Island for 50 years of making Rhode Island government more transparent and accountable. As a former Common Cause board member, I know that we can only build a strong economy and a high quality of life for Rhode Islanders if our state government operates ethically and openly. Congratulations and thank you for 50 years of great work, and I look forward to continuing to work with Common Cause and all of you to build a Rhode Island government that our people deserve in the years to come.
Hi, I'm very
Good evening. My name is John Marion, and I'm proud to be the Executive Director of Common Cause Rhode Island. We planned a special evening for you tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. Tonight, we're going to begin by celebrating our most recent success, the 2020 census. As part of that, we will hear a wonderful spoken word presentation put together for us by the artist Marlon Carey. We'll then present the Excellence in Public Service Award to the state's Complete Count Committee and its co-chairs, Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott and Mayor James Diosa, who will be joining us tonight. Then 2 longtime board members who are stepping aside, Ellen O'Hara and Ford Sayre, will be presented with our Distinguished Service Award. Finally, we'll convey the John Gardner Fellowship on 2 pillars of our organization, former board member Alan Flink and former Executive Director Phil West. We'll conclude with the election of the slate of new board members for new 2-year terms, including our 2 newest members, Jessica David and Janie Segui Rodriguez. Tonight's program is made possible in part by our generous sponsors, Amica Insurance, Navigant Credit Union, and Barbara Sokoloff and Herbert Rakitansky. Thank you to them for their generosity. One new feature of our annual meeting tonight is that we're able to offer you the chance to purchase Common Cause branded merchandise. This is a new effort of our national office to expand our visibility. You will find a link in the chat along with a code for a 15% discount. But to get tonight's program started, I'm going to hand it over to our board president, David Pellegrino, to say a few words of welcome. David.
Thank you, John. And welcome everyone to Common Cause Rhode Island's 2021 annual meeting. We are a year late. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary due to the COVID emergency. On behalf of our local board, I extend our gratitude to all of you attending and celebrating with us, including fellow board, advisory, and committee members, elected officials, staff, awardees, sponsors, and guests. As will be made evident throughout this event, Common Cause Rhode Island has been an integral force in making Rhode Island and its governmental institutions more ethical, transparent, and accessible by all for over 50 years. You've likely heard of our work in areas such as separation of powers, judicial selection, and ethics reform. It is with that in mind that tonight we recognize our leadership, celebrate current successes, and honor our history. I would be remiss if I did not mention a few matters before yielding the floor. First, to my fellow board members, thank you for your work and stewardship all year long, particularly those of you who are renewing your commitment to the board tonight. Board membership takes devotion and much effort. Each of you provide passionate participation, giving of your unique talents, and I'm honored to work with you. Additionally, I want to welcome those who will become new board members tonight, Jessica David and Janie Segui Rodriguez. Second, thank you to our staff, John and Sam. You work tirelessly in what can be a thankless world, but know we recognize and appreciate all you do for us and Rhode Island. And frankly, Rhode Islanders thank you too. They just may not realize it. Finally, thank you to our guests and sponsors. Some of you are being introduced to Common Cause Rhode Island tonight, or only know us by name. I hope tonight gives you a solid sense of who we are and what we are all about. I want to extend a sincere invitation to you all to get more involved with us, be that at our events or on one of our committees. Good government only works when we all get involved. Thank you and enjoy the event. John?
Thank you, David, and thank you for your service. It's been a fantastic 12 months for Common Cause Rhode Island. At last year's annual meeting, we celebrated our recent victory at the United States Supreme Court that made voting more accessible for all Rhode Islanders during the pandemic. Well, soon after we last gathered, last October, Rhode Island had one of its most successful elections in our history. More than 500,000 Rhode Islanders were able to vote, the biggest turnout ever. Common Cause continued our election protection program begun in 2012. We deployed more than 100 volunteers across the state to assist voters in need. That included 24 students from Roger Williams University School of Law, who've been a great partner. At the end of 2020, we hosted not one, but 2 online convenings titled Blueprint for a Great Democracy. The Blueprint conferences brought together an eclectic group of speakers to have a community discussion about the future of voting and the future of public meetings in a post-pandemic world. I want to thank our incoming board member, Jessica David, for her excellent facilitation of those events. When the General Assembly reconvened in 2021, we were ready. Common Cause built a coalition of more than 24 groups to support the Let RI Vote campaign, the most ambitious reform to our elections ever introduced. Let RI Vote drew lessons from voting during the pandemic to thoroughly modernize elections in the Ocean State. While we weren't successful this year, we'll be back in 2022 fighting for the right to vote for every eligible Rhode Islander. And perhaps most exciting of all, in April, we were pleasantly surprised when the US Census Bureau announced the results of the 2020 census. Unexpectedly, and I mean really unexpectedly, Rhode Island grew by more than 44,000 people. Because of those results, Rhode Island will keep its additional seat in the US House of Representatives, as you've heard, for another decade, as well as hundreds of millions of dollars of additional federal funds that will flow back to our state. Absolutely no one thought that would happen. Common Cause began working on the census in 2017 because we realized that in order to have a fair redistricting process in our state, we need first to have an accurate census. I want to introduce our Assistant Director, Sam Ogundari, who will take it from there. Sam?
Thank you, John. And good evening, everyone. Our next speaker is a decorated Rhode Island poet, performer, and educator by the name of Marlon Infinite Carey. Mr. Carey has been named Best Hip Hop Poet by the Cambridge Poetry Awards 2 years in a row. He's been the Boston Cantab Lounge's Grand Slam champion and was a featured speaker on TED Talks twice, just to name a few achievements. He also holds a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from St. Andrew's Presbyterian College. Tonight, he will share a spoken word piece about the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee accomplishments through their census outreach efforts. Let me be the first to say, writing a spoken word piece about the census is no small task. But Marlon was able to hold my attention with his storytelling cadence, wordplay, and lyrical wit. You'll be able to hear and see for yourself now. Please welcome Marlon Carey to the virtual stage.
Every 10 years, everyone living in America is counted. And in the year 2020, in Rhode Island, it counted more than it ever had before. The speculation and the buzz was Rhode Island had cause to fret about those 2 precious seats, those 2 apportioned congressional seats. There was so much at risk if the count was not complete. And so the countdown began, and the politicians began to sweat. But Rhode Island wasn't about to be counted out. They weren't down for the count just yet. So the governor decreed that an army they would need, and her assistants took heed and assembled a team that would not easily meet defeat. Their mission at hand was direct and indiscreet, ensure that the 2020 count is complete. Get out the count, get out the count. The charge for all enumerators, armed with their clipboards and pens and hand sanitizer, face masks, gloves, and calculators, onward to ring the doorbells and knock on the doors to find the people in the shadows, people living under floors. All across the country, the great count was taking place. And then the president said, the 2020 census must be completed with haste. There was once an administration that shunned immigration. And in fact, this administration initiated a situation which would unperson any immigrant by means of the insertion into the census of a citizenship question. But fortunately, the selection of justices rebuffed this position, and thus we have come to this census for data acquisition. Over centuries, we've adopted newer versions. In the beginning, 5 enslaved Africans equaled 3 whole persons. Native persons weren't counted until 1870, and the original census was concerned essentially with identifying free white male persons over 16, an early assessment of our economic and military potential. But now we find this census invention essential. If we had stopped the count early in 2020, it would have been most consequential. The data gleaned from this gargantuan effort is incredibly influential. Since 1790, the census has been conducted. The Constitution in Article 1, Section 2 has instructed, on the first day of April, every 10 years, the accurate enumeration of the state's population will affect congressional representation and condition the allocation of federal funds and ensure effective electoral vote designation. The diligent decennial documentation of the men and women and children of our nation takes an exceptional amount of patience, will, and determination, and immense dedication. Workers are selected for their leadership delegation, teams braving hurricanes and wild situations that bear frustration, and some may even defy explanation. But our intrepid enumerators are adaptive, and when confronted with threats from that vapid administration that actively advocated backwards immigration, they tended towards rapid innovation. They developed new strategies and approaches for reaching previously underserved populations, 46 languages to provide access to the information, which amounted to a major prevention of underrepresentation, which ultimately affects redistricting and resource dissemination in order to secure essential services to certain communities that have been historically undercounted. Our heroes fought throughout the hot summer, plodded on undaunted, and made steady strides to account for every soul in Little Rhode. And they clutched their little clipboards and their iPads boldly, going where they had never had reason to venture a tour. They felt it like a heartbeat, a thrumming in their core. This year, the count counts like it never has before. The pandemic raged on with its unprecedented challenges, and across the country, the forest fires blazed, causing uncalculated damages. The obstacles were confounding. The data was astounding. The population experts' doubt was abounding. But when that final count went down, what the census takers found is Rhode Island welcomes people from all backgrounds. 43,000 immigrants with their own new and dangerous ideas, seeking a place that offers liberty of conscience, have found themselves here in our recently renamed state with fierce determination and survival in their eyes. 2020, in hindsight, provided a census surprise. 43,000 new neighbors who pushed us over the top and helped us ensure for the next decade that our complete funding would not be stopped. So Medicaid and Section 8 and highway planning and construction, Head Start and SNAP Title I and other functions of our state's infrastructure are allotted the right amount, all because Rhode Islanders stood up to be counted. And for this complete count, we counted on so many of our partners, our courageous compadres in coordination, providing opportunities for the community like Tufts Health Foundation, United Way of Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Foundation, Grantmakers Council of Rhode Island, the City of Woonsocket, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island, and the City of Pawtucket. And did you know the U.S. Census has a $10 billion budget? This is truly our nation's largest civil exercise. The complete count of all Rhode Island residents, beyond all the shenanigans of past administrations and presidents, when the count had been counted and the smoke screen had cleared, 2 seats retained, 2 seats retained, 2 seats retained, they all exclaimed with joyous tears. The Secretary of State declared, today is a prime example of why community advocacy matters. All residents should be counted despite their pending citizenship status. The count affects the resources for emergencies in education, state fiscal stabilization, all the necessaries for establishing a sustainable civilization. The Complete Count Committee performed tremendously. 2020 at first intimidated us with its intensity, but through the efforts of our census rededucted, Rhode Island is third in the nation for population density, a remarkable feat, for additionally, this was the first time the U.S. Census was permitted to be filled out online. So we stretched the panorama to include the pandemic, the politics, the logistics, the policies, and the polemics. There are too many collaborators to name at this time, but thanks to all the 2020 counters, we have all ensured our share of billions of dollars in funding over the next 10 years. Great work, everyone. Mission accomplished. Cheers.
A very special thanks to Marlon Carey for that great performance. Marlon was one of the many community members who used their trusted voices to help with census outreach in 2020. And a special thanks to Nail Communications for connecting us with Marlon. As I mentioned, our work on the census here at Common Cause began in 2017 and really became one of our largest projects in our 51-year history. We even hired a temporary employee, Galen Auer, who I want to thank, as our outreach coordinator, solely to work on the census. In December 2018, Governor Raimondo appointed a 60-member complete count committee. And you're going to see in the slides here the members of that committee to oversee the work. And it was an enormous effort, as Marlon chronicled. Additionally, that complete count committee was able to raise more than $1.5 million in public and private funds, which were then awarded to these census grantees you see on the screen, who did the actual outreach. This was really, the boots on the ground. These were the heroes of the census who, despite a pandemic, were able to make it a real success in Rhode Island. As was mentioned at the beginning, the Complete Count Committee was co-chaired by Dr. Alexander Scott, the Director of the Department of Health, and Mayor James Diosa of Central Falls. Unfortunately, Dr. Alexander Scott couldn't be with us tonight, but she did send some brief remarks that we'll hear now. After we see the rest of the committee.
Hello, my name is Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott. I am the director of the Rhode Island Department of Health. It was also my honor to serve alongside former Mayor James Diosa as the co-chair of the Rhode Island Complete Count Committee. I am so proud to be accepting this Excellence in Public Service Award on behalf of the entire Complete Count Committee for the work that was done to ensure a complete, accurate count during the 2020 U.S. Census. Billions of dollars in federal funds come into Rhode Island every year based on census results, so it was critical that we got this right. That money supports healthcare and community health initiatives, schools, roads, housing, the environment, and so many other services and programs in communities across the state. The esteemed members of the Complete Count Committee and so many other individuals and organizations, including Common Cause Rhode Island, worked so hard to ensure that every community in Rhode Island was accurately and fairly represented. Thank you sincerely to all the members of the team, and thank you to everyone throughout the state who helped get this done. Also, thank you to Director Courtney Hawkins, who stepped in, particularly when COVID-19 was all-consuming, and jumped in to help and assist in getting this over the finish line. The accurate results of the 2020 census are a foundation to the critical work that so many of us are engaged in to build a healthier, more equitable Rhode Island. Thank you, everyone. Stay healthy and stay safe.
And we're grateful to Dr. Alexander Scott for sharing those remarks and for her work. Many of us on the Complete Count Committee were in a meeting in that office when one of her assistants came in and started whispering to her about a new virus that they were taking seriously. So she literally had to step aside to help our state, and we're eternally grateful. We are joined, though, by her co-chair, Mayor James Diosa, former Mayor James Diosa of the city of Central Falls. Mayor, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, John, and it's an honor to be able to celebrate with so many Rhode Islanders this great achievement. And I want to thank you and the Complete Count Committee for working so hard and so diligently throughout those difficult times as we confronted not only the pandemic, but so many misinformation out there that just made this complete count a little more difficult. But everyone's resolve around not only maintaining our our 2 seats in Congress, but more importantly, understanding how this would create more opportunities for resources to come into many hard-hit communities like Central Falls and others around Rhode Island. So thank you again for the opportunity, John, and looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, no, thank you. And you mentioned challenges, and you know, you were really probably the Central Falls, the community that worked the hardest to get out the count of all the communities in the state. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the unique challenges, particularly that Central Falls faced in getting out the count?
Yes, many challenges. I think to name a few, as you know, this is a community of immigrants, and not only is it a big community of immigrants, but there's many families who are undocumented. And so when there was attempts to include a citizenship question in the census form, people were concerned. There was also information floating that this information, if filled out by one person, could be, shared with agencies at the federal level, including ICE. And so that became extremely difficult. And two, this is a very hard-working community. So getting access to people to fill out the census was going to be a grassroots effort. We know that everyone did not have access to internet, so we had to be very creative in how we communicated, also assisted people with filling out the census. And I know that you and my solicitor at the time, Matt Jersey, created the 1 square mile run to sort of create awareness around the census, which I thought was very important to sort of highlight that the census was coming, and let's be aware. And so we took on a whole PR approach. We hired people to knock on doors. We had people making phone calls. We used social media. And then the pandemic hit, and that's where we were a bit concerned about what the outcome was going to come. But our folks who were helping out the enumerators were brave enough to continue the work, knocking on doors, et cetera, and overcome the fear, because they knew that people like Mario Bueno, Progreso Latino, like Jaime Maldonado, our Fuerza Laboral. We had local pastors talking about the census. We knew that the trusted voices were the ones that were going to get us over the top. And fast forward now, Central Falls saw a 16% increase in population. And that to me is remarkable and important, not only to the whole state of Rhode Island, but also to show that Central Falls has been growing, and successfully we were able to do that through a lot of hard work, a lot of support from you, John, and many other organizations, and deliver our small piece to the census complete count.
Yeah, there's a little joke going around the Complete Count Committee, because the co-chairs, while co-chairing, both had kids. So you and Senator Cano had a beautiful baby, as did Dr. Alexander Scott. So we were joking that you wanted to have such a good count that you went all the way and increased the state's population by 2. So thanks for personal dedication to that.
Yeah, well, if we wanted people to believe how important it was, we need to contribute in some way, right?
Yeah. So you were also involved, you're involved with NALEO, which is the National Association of Latino Elected Officials. And can you speak a little bit to sort of, the results of the census and what it means for the Latino population nationwide? It looks like maybe we were kind of lucky, and other states weren't so lucky in that sense.
Mm-hmm. So what was very important about that experience is we were able to travel around the country and listen to different communities and their approaches around the census. I tell you, majority of the speakers, a majority of the input that we heard around the country were very similar to what we were experiencing in Rhode Island, the fact that at the time, as we were starting, they were hoping that the state would provide some funding so that they can put together the complete count committee. Second was the fear around the rhetoric that was coming out of the White House at the time, and so how to sort of eliminate that loud voice and sort of speak on facts and have trusted people like community members give clear information about how the census is performed and what it means to their community. But we also saw that and the final result and the report is that what I took away, most of it, is that this, for the Latino community, had to be a total grassroots effort. We can no longer take the chance of hoping that the Latino community would fill out their survey just because they saw an ad on, fill out the census just because they saw an ad or they saw the TV, et cetera. We needed to get very into the communities where we knew we were going to experience the complete hard count communities, I should say, and really focus on those areas. And so we saw here in Rhode Island growth in the Latino community, and I think that's important, especially for the Northeast. We've been slowly growing as compared to other parts of the country. But it was a great experience, and we were able to share our report out with many members of Congress, the White House, and I think that for those who heard very loud and clear, understood that there was a lot of due diligence that was done in that report, and I think that helped guide many complete count committees around the country, especially dealing with the Latino community.
Well, yeah, you certainly put in your fair share of work to make sure not only there was a complete count in Rhode Island, but nationwide. And thank you very much on behalf. And you should have, I know we got you one of these, and we're going to drop this off to Dr. Alexander Scott, but we're super thrilled as an organization, to share this award with you and the whole Complete Count Committee for all the efforts. So thank you for joining us tonight. And please thank Senator Cano, because she was instrumental in getting the state funding for the outreach and getting that Complete Count Committee set up. So I'm deeply grateful and thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thank you. There's so many thank yous to go out, and I think you've listed all the people who contributed. But most importantly, I think a lot of Rhode Islanders came together. And that right there is a true inspiration of what we can do when we all are focused on a particular issue and working together. And we should start the work now for the next census so that we have the work laid out, and it should be much more easier than this time.
You're right. We should get started on 2030 now. And we went through a lot of meetings together, folks. So maybe that means we need to have another meeting. So.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Have a good night.
Pleasure. You too.
So in addition to our Excellence in Public Service Award, we also, which is to folks who embrace the values of Common Cause in their work in the community, we also give a Distinguished Service Award for those who demonstrate extraordinary efforts on behalf of Common Cause. So this is typically people who are a part of Common Cause. This year, we're pleased to give those awards to two long-serving board members, Ellen O'Hara and Ford Sayer. So here to introduce them again is David Pellegrino, our board president. David?
Thanks again, John. And I am honored to be presenting the Distinguished Service Award to these two individuals. First, Ellen O'Hara joined our board in 2009 and brought her experience from government and politics to our mission. At each meeting, we could always count on Ellen to bring us back, reminding us to relate the issue to our mission. Ellen served as chair of the nominating committee and as secretary of the board. Thank you for your service, Ellen.
I am overwhelmed with gratitude to have been selected to receive the Distinguished Service Award. Thank you all for joining me and other awardees tonight. Over the course of my tenure, I have volunteered whenever I could, despite other obligations. My story. In 1960, I went with my father to the polls to vote for the very first time at the age of 21. Being a Massachusetts native, I had the terrific experience of voting that year for JFK. Since that time, politics have been one of my spiritual homes. I have been inspired by many people since then and followed their activism. When I read Phil West's book, I confess I didn't finish it all. I remember thinking, oh, I know when that event happened. I remember so many of Common Cause actions and successes in the following years. You can imagine how proud I was when I was nominated to be on the governing board. The people who achieved those milestones that I just mentioned were sitting right at the table with me. I was so excited. I have served on the board now for 14 years, and I feel so fortunate to be part of a group of passionate people who want our democracy to work for the people. I would like to end my sharing with a special thanks to some very special people. While I respect and care for all board members and staff, I would just like to say thank you to those who I think of as my mentors, my supporters, and my role models. Thank you to Alan Flink. Thank you to Amy Goins. Thank you to Kevin McAllister. Thank you to Joan Gray. Thank you to Nancy Rhodes. Thank you to Kevin Flynn. Thank you to Ford's sake.
Our next awardee is Ford Sayre, who took a bit of a different path to board service. After having served on our advisory council, Ford joined the board in 2014. He left the board in 2020 after serving a long stint as its secretary. As many of you know, it falls to the secretary to memorialize each meeting by drafting minutes. Ford's minutes are second to none, leaving comprehensive records for posterity. Ford also brought a keen insight on matters that helped our chapter form positions to better Rhode Island. Thank you for your service, Ford.
Go.
I appreciate the recognition for the 16 years I was an active member of the Common Cause community and my years as a member of the Board of Governors, and particularly with fondness for the 5 years I spent as secretary to the Board of Governors and the Policy Committee. Common Cause is a unique organization made up of wonderful people who are dedicated to democracy and its maintenance. As a political junkie, it was a pleasure listening to John Marion discuss the machinations of our elected and appointed solons. John would dissect a law, action, a policy change, list its legal and ethical strengths and shortcomings, cite similar events, and explain why, in this instance, it did or did not meet the standards of Common Cause. Then he would turn the topic over to the Board of Governors or chair the relevant committees, and we would discuss. I would write up the minutes with the same attention to detail and documentation Gordon Wood might apply, and produce an 8 to 10 page tome describing the meeting that probably lasted an hour and a half. My late wife, Sally, would come into my office and ask what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 hours. I would explain. Common Cause is the only lobbying organization on Smith Hill devoted to good government. We don't sell anything. We don't ask for easements, access, influence, or beg for money. You bring sunshine to governing, driving out the shadows, exposing hidden agendas, and eliminating the I know a guy step. Well, Sally would say, it's time to eat. And so it is. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of Common Cause Rhode Island, the pure joy it gave me. Someday, a researcher may come across those minutes and say, oh, that's how it happened.
Yeah, I want to thank Ellen and Ford for their years of service and friendship and wish them the best as they leave the board. I also want to acknowledge two other individuals who are leaving the board. Andrew Rogers, who started as an intern while in law school and is now an accomplished lawyer, and Cindy Salazar. Thank you, Cindy and Andrew, for your years of service to Common Cause. Our final awards tonight are truly special. In 2015, Common Cause Rhode Island created the John Gardner Fellowship to recognize people who have spent a lifetime demonstrating their dedication to the work of the organization. It is named after the man who founded Common Cause 51 years ago, John Gardner. In our history, we have only given this honor 6 times to Natalie Jocelyn, our founding member, Henry Sharp Jr., Alan Hassenfeld, Lila and John Sappensley, and Jim Miller. This is the first time we've given this award since 2012. I can think of no two people who are more deserving of this award than Alan Flink and Phil West. Alan served on the Common Cause Rhode Island board from 1999 until 2020. Prior to his service to Common Cause, he was a member of the state's Judicial Nominating Commission, as well as president of the Rhode Island Bar Association, among many other accomplishments. Perhaps his most notable accomplishment was helping Rhode Island adopt the merit selection system of judicial appointment. It was the last state in the country to adopt this reform, and it was the most comprehensive adoption ever. First, we're going to hear from Common Cause Rhode Island former board president Jane Austin, who will present the John Gardner Fellowship to Alan Flink.
It is my great honor to introduce Alan Flink as a Gardner Fellow. Alan exceeds all the requirements, and he has filled the role of a leader providing institutional memory and guidance to generations of Common Cause members for many years now. His fellow honoree, Phil West, once wrote that Alan struck him as a lion, deep-throated and fierce. That always struck me as a very apt description of Alan, a leader with an unerring moral compass. Alan brought great intellect, knowledge, and compassion to board discussions. He was able to untangle complex issues of law and politics that came before the board. He helped us all to understand the competing interests and the values at stake. Even before he joined the board in 1999, Alan was a great and valuable ally to Common Cause. He served on the Rhode Island Supreme Court Ethics Commission, the Right Now Steering Committee, led the Rhode Island Bar Association, and served on the Judicial Nominating Committee. In his 2 decades on the board, Alan served a key role in shaping the direction and strategy for Common Cause on issues like redistricting, ethics, judicial selection, and separation of powers. Alan Flink is a man of action with strong convictions and great generosity of spirit. As a Common Cause board member, Alan was clear and succinct in his analyses and decisive in his recommendations. He leavened his opinions with dry wit and trenchant observations about the men and women around him. Alan is a wise observer of human nature, yet his bedrock belief in democracy and government by the people always shone through. As an organization, Common Cause was made stronger by his commitment and dedication. And for those of us who served on the board, his insights and his friendship will all be treasured.
Thank you, Jane, for those wonderful remarks about Alan. And now we'll hear from Alan Flink.
Good evening. members and friends of Common Cause, it's so good to be with all of you again. Jane Austen made a valiant attempt to exaggerate my doings over a lifetime of activities. Key in that lifetime was being a board member of Common Cause. It was a wonderful experience. I considered being on the board an honor as we worked to try to make Rhode Island a better place, a fairer place for all of us to live and work in. And I thank Jane for her generous comments. We do our best to uphold the standard of the organization, which is simple and basic, to promote the core values of American democracy. That includes nearly every aspect of life that is significant to most of us. And involves a great deal of time and effort on the part of all of the members of the board that seek to stay current on the issues. My role in all of this was just being a member of the board. It was a rewarding experience. I enjoyed every meeting that we had. Some of them were agreeable, more agreeable than others, but in any event, it was always a learning experience. I learned more about government in Rhode Island and how things operated. And I joined a very significant group of dedicated men and women who thought similarly, came to meetings, and the group was representative of practically the entire state. Initially, it was basically set in Providence, but we expanded as best we could to include other areas of little old Rhode Island. And I think we've been successful in doing that. In conclusion, I want to thank all those that thought I was worthy of this, what I consider to be a very high honor, which I accept with humility, the John Gardner Fellowship Award. I thank all of those that were involved in the selection, particularly John Marion, our executive director, David Pellegrino, the president of the board members themselves, and all of the other members of the community that is represented by this wonderful organization. Anybody that participated in that vote, I humbly thank you and appreciate the fact that you thought that I was worthy of that. I consider it to be a very high honor, and I accept the award with humility. Thank you all very much. It was wonderful to be here, particularly on this wonderful occasion, but it's always wonderful to be with my good friends that consist of Common Cause. Thank you all very much again.
Thank you to Alan for his decades of service and those wonderful remarks. Our final award goes to longtime Common Cause Executive Director, Phil West. Phil worked for Common Cause from 1988 until 2006 and became synonymous with the organization during that time. Some people have even said to me over the years, Phil West founded Common Cause. That's why it's appropriate that we honor Phil with the John Gardner Fellowship. No one has given more to the organization in Rhode Island than Phil. To present him with the award is Common Cause President Karen Hobart Flynn.
Good evening. I'm thrilled that we could come together tonight to celebrate the many contributions that Phil West has made to democracy in Rhode Island as its former executive director. Let's hope the next time Common Cause Rhode Island gathers for its annual event, we can all be together in person. Phil served as Common Cause Rhode Island's executive director for 18 years, starting in 1988. I joined the national team at Common Cause in 1985 and was awed by Phil's work in Rhode Island. And when I became an executive director in Connecticut in 1996, his tremendous work in Rhode Island was a strong model for me. I could spend all evening listing Phil's incredible achievements, but I have time to only name a few. First, I think it's important to mention that in all of the work that Phil took on for Common Cause, he built broad reform coalitions to galvanize thousands of activists to push for needed reform. In 1991, I believe in reaction to a statewide scandal, Phil organized the Right Now Coalition, where he served as its principal lobbyist and a leader. That coalition pushed and won many ethics and campaign reforms. One of the most notable efforts was pushing for a constitutional amendment that created a process for merit selection of all Rhode Island state judges. That's a huge accomplishment. One of the biggest issues Phil took on was a 10-year campaign to establish separation of powers in Rhode Island. Common Cause Rhode Island was among the first to identify the problem created by legislators sitting on dozens of boards and commissions in the state. This dual office holding created numerous conflicts of interest and defied the basic model of government adopted by our federal government and the other 49 states. Phil and Common Cause Rhode Island played a crucial role in the historic 2004 vote that amended the state constitution to establish separation of powers. After 78% of Rhode Island voters supported the constitutional amendment, Phil and Common Cause Rhode Island worked to reconstruct more than 70 boards and commissions to ensure compliance with the amendment. For those of you that don't know the story of this battle, I urge you to talk to Phil about it or read his book, Secret and Scandals, Reforming Rhode Island from 1986 to 2006, that details many of his battles for governmental reform. There are so many key lessons in there for taking on power and winning. It's about tenacity, building power, being strategic, and ensuring that the reform functions as intended by doing the hard work afterwards to protect and implement the reforms that are passed. More than 50 years ago, John Gardner built a nonpartisan grassroots organization to give voice to the people because special interests were organized, but the people were not. As John Gardner said, quote, "In creating Common Cause, we have done more than create an organization. We've given life to an idea." Phil's work each day demonstrated the value and brilliance of that idea and our mission as he focused on Rhode Island's instruments of self-government to make sure the institutions and its servants are transparent and responsive to the will of the people. Congratulations, Phil, for being selected for a lifetime appointment as a John Gardner Fellow, which serves to honor those who follow in the footsteps of John Gardner, who demonstrate extraordinary and unwavering devotion to the work of Common Cause Rhode Island, and who further its mission with success and important contributions. Thank you.
I'm very grateful to Karen for sharing those remarks about Phil. In our last video tonight will be Phil accepting the John Gardner Fellowship, which I can't wait to share with him tomorrow. So here, without further ado, is Phil West.
I'm deeply grateful to be honored as a John Gardner Fellow. The only time that I met John Gardner in person was when he came to Washington really to say farewell to the Common Cause community. He spoke to a huge ballroom full of people, and he said that he had cancer that had spread to his bones. There was no sense of self-pity, but only a kind of quiet resolve. He said to us that he hoped we would go ahead with the work, that we would continue the mission. John Gardner had a vision for Americans that I think has been crucial in the country. We lived in Brooklyn in 1970, when he published a full-page ad in the New York Times saying basically everybody is organized but the people. And he asked citizens to join him in a new organization that would be what he called a people's lobby, with the intention of challenging corrupting forces in government, particularly big money. I joined right away, of course, but then we moved twice and my membership lapsed. And I kind of forgot about Common Cause for a number of years. But then my wife and I moved to Providence, and I was looking for work. And in the Providence Journal was a little tiny display ad that said that Common Cause needed an executive director. So I went to the local library to see if I could find a book, since I already knew a little bit about Common Cause, and I read John Gardner's book about Common Cause before I went to the interview. He wrote that citizens have a right to know what their government is doing, and they deserve a voice in its decisions. He also urged citizen activists to avoid being co-opted by either Republicans or Democrats, and he was a Republican. If we are to be effective, he wrote, we must often do things that evoke resistance and anger from the people involved in the political machinery. Sometimes they will accuse us of partisanship. Occasionally, they may even believe it. In any event, over the next 18 years, I had the chance to work in the legislature on many of these laws and to be in the courts. And I think that we tried constantly to fulfill John Gardner's vision. I wish there were time to tell you the stories about some of the leaders who worked on those projects and some of the things that happened over those years. We amended the Rhode Island Constitution 6 more times, including for merit selection of judges. And you'll see Alan Flink, who was a great leader in that effort, also receiving this award. We passed dozens of laws strengthening ethics in the state of Rhode Island and making the state government more accountable to the people. I believe John Gardner was right in pushing for process reforms to make the government open and accountable to the people. With characteristic wit, he once told a reporter that our mission is a great series of opportunities disguised as insoluble problems. I loved his way with metaphors. He once described the struggle to a reporter, and he said, I think of it as people sitting in an ancient automobile by the side of the road. The tires are flat, and the drive shaft is bent, but the passengers are engaged in a great argument as to whether we should go to Phoenix or San Francisco. In my imagination, John Gardner said, I am standing by the side of the road, and I'm saying to them, you're not going anywhere until you fix the damn car. We live in a time when people are confused and disappointed and frustrated. And I'm thankful that Common Cause here in Rhode Island, along with dozens of other civic groups, are working to make government what it should be. And so it's with great honor that I accept this award in the name of John Gardner, who is a hero to us all. I'm deeply grateful to be honored as a John Gardner.
We're really excited to give that award to Phil. As I said, Phil really has given more to this organization than anybody in its history. And Phil, you have our deepest congratulations from the board and everybody involved with Common Cause. Our last work tonight involves the board and electing a new slate of members to the board. And so I'm going to turn it over now to Eric Anderson, who is the chair of the governance committee, who is going to lead us through that process.
Thank you, John. Wait for the transition to come through here. I want to first say that you'll meet 4 of our 5 committee members who've done a huge amount of work on this committee this year. And I want to say that you will, that in spite of Dave's comments about how hard it is to be on the board, if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't be here doing it. And it really is a lot of fun. So I want to be clear about that and encourage anyone who's interested to come help out. I will now make one motion, and then there will be a second motion. And after that, we will ask everyone attending this Zoom to vote for our slate of board members for the coming 2 years. On behalf of the governing board, I am absolutely honored to nominate Jessica David of Good Worth Working For and any number of other organizations, and Janie Sagui Rodriguez of Achievement First Charter Educational Organization and founder of Parents Leading for Educational Equity, to join the board for their first 2 years of service beginning tonight. I would then like to ask Barbara Sokoloff, who has helped us to assemble these folks for us, to join us now for the second.
I second the nomination.
Thank you, Barbara. For our second motion, because it involves me coming back to be re-elected to the board, and also our 5th committee member, Jed Thorpe, who is now serving in Ford's old position as secretary, and I assume scribbling notes at this very moment. I'd like to introduce Kathy Saunders to make the nomination for our returning board members.
Thank you, Eric. The governing board nominates the following people to continue serving for a 2-year term, beginning upon the vote pursuant to the bylaws. So continuing their term as of tonight, we nominate Catherine Amaral, Eric Anderson, Jill DeCourcy, Christine Mora, Adam Myers, Jamie Rhodes, and Jed Thorpe to serve another 2-year term. And Barbara, would you be available as a second to that?
I second the nomination.
Thank you, Barbara. And now we will have an electronic vote through a poll, which I believe our wonderful tech host will administer, and we'll ask everyone to vote on the first motion and then on the second motion. And if we had thought ahead, we might have put the Jeopardy theme song in here. And I'm assuming our tech host there, yes. So looks our first question has been approved. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric, and all the members of the governance committee for your work putting together the slate for the board. And I want to welcome to the board Jessica and Janie, and look forward to serving with you at Common Cause. And congratulations to all the returning board members as well. I should also note, while we use electronic voting for this, we don't support electronic voting for real elections here at Common Cause. So that's the conclusion of tonight's program. I want to thank everybody for joining us and give a special shout out to Sam Ogundari and Becky Timmons from Common Cause for all their hard work making tonight go smoothly. I also want to thank Brian Heller, who's a board member, and Robert Houlihan, who's a coworker of his, who recorded several of tonight's videos, and Brian Warner, who is actually with Common Cause North Carolina, who helped an amateur video editor edit some of those videos. As several people said, as well, I truly hope that next year we'll be able to gather once again in person. I can just say personally, it's been way too long since I've seen most of you. And as tonight's program, I think showed, over a half century, it's really the people that make Common Cause an extraordinary organization here in Rhode Island. I would be remiss, though, as the advocate for Common Cause, I didn't mention two current campaigns and what you can do. I mentioned earlier that we're continuing to push to make voting more accessible in Rhode Island. So I welcome you to look at letrivote.org for information about what we're doing there, letrivote.org. And then we're also working on redistricting, which is happening right now, that redistricting process. So you can join me tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, CCRI in Warwick for the next redistricting hearing. So if you want to find out more about redistricting, you can join me tomorrow night at 6 at CCRI in Warwick, because the work never ends. We've achieved a lot of great things, but we have a lot of work to do. And finally, once again, I want to thank our sponsors, Amica Insurance, Navigate Credit Union, Barbara Sokoloff, and Herbert Rekatansky. And don't forget, it's in the chat. If you would like to buy some Common Cause branded merchandise, you can use the code Common Cause Rhode Island 50th to get 15% off in that store. So if you want a coffee mug, although this isn't the right one, or a hat or a t-shirt or something, that's a fun thing to do. So again, congratulations to all the awardees. Thanks to everybody who made tonight possible. Thank you for joining us and have a great night.